Welcome to Studying Law Around the World. I'm Claudio Klaus. In each episode, I talk with lawyers, law students, and professors from different parts of the world to talk about legal education, careers, and what the profession looks like in real life. We talk about the hard parts, the surprises, and the decisions that shaped their paths. Whether you're planning to study abroad, thinking about working in another legal system, or just curious about how law works around the world, this podcast is for you.
So many of the guests on this podcast have talked about how important it is to have strong writing skills as a lawyer. It's true, written communication is essential in this profession, but it can also be one of the trickiest skills to master. If you find your writing feels a bit clunky, or you're getting a lot of edits on your work, or perhaps you're breaking into an English speaking jurisdiction for the first time, Grammatica International can help. I'm Rebecca Lockwood, the lawyer, mediator, and educator behind Grammatica, and we help lawyers and law students to write more sharply, speak more clearly, and advance their careers with group training and one-on-one skills coaching designed just for legal professionals. I have worked with so many lawyers like you who are exceptionally smart, qualified, and capable, but need a bit of guidance to stand out in a competitive legal market. And I get it myself, having lived and worked in 5 countries during my 17 years in law and education. Whether you're looking to sharpen your writing skills generally, refresh your CV, or draft an application for a law program, Grammatica can help. Visit grammatica.co to learn more.
Today, I have the opportunity to host Emil Abedian, who founder and CEO of an accounting firm that is specialized in law firms. Thank you so much for joining us today. Very happy to have you today here, Emil.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. And to start off our episode, I'd love to hear a little about you. Would you be able to introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Emil Claudio, as you know. I'm a CPA, been CPA for many years. Started my career back in Sweden, where I grew up. That's where I was raised, and graduated from a university in Sweden. Worked there for a few years at Ernst Young. At the Stockholm office before I decided to move out to California in 2007. So about 18 years ago when I moved out here, and I started my career at the larger firm in Los Angeles area, and gradually moved over and started my own practice a few years later in. So that's a little bit about me. I don't know how much more you want to know, but the professional background is where that it is. And we started when I first started my practice, it was just a general practice without really knowing what my niche would be. We got into doing accounting and taxes for anybody who wanted my services, which we pretty soon realized that was not the way to grow a business. But well, I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that down the line here.
No worries. Well, you just answered, the first question I was thinking about asking you about this transition from EY to founding your own firm. So if I may go into, I guess, the next step then. So what motivated you to move into a practice that is focused on lawyers?
As I mentioned, when I first started my own practice, the reason really I started my practice, the main reason was because I always wanted to do that. I could see myself working. Initially, you got to work for a firm, obviously, to get some experience and know what you're doing. But that was never my intention. I couldn't see myself being at the firm, a larger firm like that, and just be a part of a bigger organization and just follow what that organization is doing and want us to do. Back of my head, I always had it in my head. I need to open up my practice. But in 2009, the reason I really did it at that time was because I got laid off. So I was brand new in the country here, about 2 years, brand new, not really brand new, but about 2 years into the country. And about a month before I was getting married, we got laid off. Me, 26 people of us at the firm at the same day. You're probably too young, but 2008, 7, 8, 9, it was not good years, especially here in America. So the firm let a lot of us go, and that really triggered me to really push it and decide to open up my own practice at that time. And to answer your question now, why law firms? When I first started, I was here for 2 years. So I didn't go to college here, so I didn't know people from university. So my my connections were really limited. I didn't know a lot of people, and it was obviously that made it a lot harder for me to get clients that I wanted to work with. For that reason, I took on whatever client that wanted to work with me, anywhere from individual preparation clients to larger businesses, which I had the experience with from both Ernst Young and the firm I was working with here in California. But to get those kind of clients was not as easy because of my limitation in relationships. So that said, you build a practice, and pretty quickly the practice is growing. As professionals, we're needed out there. As long as lawyers, CPAs, as long as you provide good service, the need is out there. It just comes back to you on how you really provide that service and how you provide that service in combination with the firm that you want to build. Those are two different things. You can grow a firm significantly, which I was doing at that time, but not the way I wanted to build a firm. I was building it because I had to build it. I needed money. I needed to survive. We just got married and all that. But you realize that this is not, at least for me, this is not the firm I want to build. I want a more structured firm. I want to be able to provide value to my clients more than just prepare tax returns or give them a set of financial statements. That's not exciting. At least for me, that was not exciting. So after thinking through it long and hard enough, I decided to get into the law firm industry, partially because it was a coincidence. I started working with lawyers, and lawyers saw that we were providing good service. They start referring us other lawyers. So the book of business of law firms increased significantly. So, and with that, the more you do something, the more you learn that industry, obviously. We started learning small nuances and small details that lawyers need, that not necessarily a doctor or a dentist or an architect or a contractor needs the same way. So we got into the law firm industry and kept on developing our skills within the industry and provide more and more services with lawyers. But at the same time, I still had my regular general practice. So I was kind of going hand in hand. I was doing both law firms and non-law firms clients until last year, about over a year ago, where I decided to cut the strings totally. It took me a long time to really cut the string, but I did it right now for the past over a year now. We are only working with law firms. So if any other client knocks on the door, we're not working with them. We're not taking them on unless there's a direct relationship to a law firm client of ours. Obviously, if you're a lawyer and your spouse is a dentist, we help you with your spouse's accounting and taxes also, because the planning goes kind of hand in hand. But we would not work with a dentist if they knock on the door right now. And the reason for that, Claudia, in my opinion, is it's been absolutely phenomenal to do it, by the way, to actually pull the trigger and just do one thing and one thing great, is to be able to provide a value. The reason is to be able to provide value. And when you do provide value, clients come. There is no way you would not grow a firm within the legal industry, accounting industry, whatever work you do. But if you provide value to your clients, the clients will come 100%, and it feels just great to have done it in the past year here.
Fantastic. Taking all of that into consideration, and as you look back into your experience, if I may ask you, was there a big turning point as well in your career that helped in any way the way you advise your clients nowadays, and especially focusing on law firms now?
The way that the business world is going and moving forward, people are they need advice. We're getting more and more specialized with whatever we do. There are softwares out there just doing specific little small thing for your specific industry. Same with professionals. You go to a doctor, for example, if you have heart problem, you're not gonna go to dentist. You're not gonna go to a knee surgeon. You go to a heart doctor. Same way should apply to us as lawyers and CPAs. And I talk to lawyers and CPAs as us because in my world, it's the same kind of business. We just happen to offer accounting services, and lawyers are offering law firm services. But in theory, it's the same kind of operation, same kind of business, same type of clients. So that's why I keep saying us when I refer to CPAs and lawyers. But we should see it the same way. Like, why would a client come to an accountant working with millions of different industries where they can go somewhere else to get work with someone that really knows their industry and knows their pain points and can really guide them in the right direction rather than just offering them compliance work. So that's the idea, and that's the turning point for me, that the more time goes, the more we need to get specialized, because the industry or the business world is asking for it. And if we don't follow that, I think we'll fall behind. We'll fall short.
Amazing. So I think that there's a few points that are interesting here. First, of your experiencing entrepreneurship, but then also your experience specifically advising in tax and all of that. So I would say that many lawyers graduate knowing how to argue cases, or maybe that's something we learn on the go, even not even learn it in school. But anyways, but we don't really learn how to run a business in law school, right? And I wanted to know from your perspective, are there a few, most common mistakes, especially on the financial sense, when you see, small or mid-sized law firms might make?
Yeah, you have a great point there, Claudio. Law firm, I mean, law school or accounting industry, accounting departments, the accounting schools are not teaching students how to run a business. They're just not doing it. Whether it's a limitation in time or limitation in resources, I don't know. If it was me, that's the first thing I would thought teach to our students, how to run a business. Because majority of lawyers that comes out, yes, a lot of them go to big law firms, a lot of them stay there, but at least where we are in California, a lot of students that come out and work few years open up their own practice. And without having the knowledge and experience, well, experience comes, but the knowledge of running an operation, running a business, it becomes very, very difficult for these young attorneys to actually scale their operation. They get stuck. They get stuck with their own little world. They're fantastic, as you said, they're fantastic attorneys. They're aggressive in courtroom. They're settling cases. They're drafting agreements. They're helping divorces go through, but they don't know the back end of it. So we see a lot of that. And the number one problem that I see with professionals, CPAs also, by the way, not only lawyers, but CPAs and lawyers see their practice as a practice and not as a business. That's my number one thing that I see. We're professionals. We're built like that. We're trained like that to be professionals. And our professional mind is totally different from the entrepreneurial mind, the business owner mind. And in order to really thrive in your law firm, your own law firm, if you decide to open up your firm, not everybody want to do it, and it's not a good fit for everybody. But if that's what you're looking for to open up your firm, you have to train the other side of the brain to become a business owner. Otherwise,
Amazing,
you
amazing.
might be better off just working somewhere, because you will spin your wheels. You will work a lot longer hours than you were at the firm. You will not make as much money as you were at the firm. And if you think that you get flexibility as a business owner without having structure in place, you're wrong. There's no flexibility. You got to work your butt off. But to be clear also, that's not the only way of running firm. There are better ways of running firm, but we got to train us. We got to train that side of the.
Amazing. No, that's great. I was looking through a few of the interviews you've given in the past and some of the content you've written. And I think there's something about here regarding an investor hat, something that you've said before, how lawyers should be putting on that investor hat on. So I wanted to ask you a little more about that. Can you explain what does that mean in more practical terms, especially for those who are managing their business? And if I understand it correctly, you've written a book on that talks a little more about that, right? Called Counsel to Counsel. Can you
That's
can you
right.
tell us about that?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So this is my first book. So now you can call me author also. So it's the first book I wrote. It's called Counsel to Counsel. The reason of the topic is, or the title is, my firm's name is Council CPAs, and we offer services to lawyers, which are counsel. So that's where the counsel to counsel comes from. We offer service to our law firms. But not only that, our law firm partners are counsels to their clients. So it's a combination of what we offer to our clients and what our clients offer to their clients. That's where the title counsel to counsel comes to from. And we're talking about how to really build and scale a law firm. And it's from my perspective, really, it's a very easy read. If you want to pick it up and read it, you probably read it in a few hours. That was the idea. It's not meant to be very technical. It's meant to be for me to share my experience working with lawyers for the past 15 plus years. And what I see with my law firm clients, success stories, why some law firms are thriving and others are not. We're talking about some success stories, some less success stories. There are no failures. Nobody is failing, by the way. I hate that word. So we don't fail, but we have less success stories in our in the book. And also I'm comparing my CPA firm to other law firms also. As I mentioned before, I see CPA firms and law firms being the same kind of business. Yes, I offer accounting and tax services, lawyers offer legal services, but the business itself is the same. This is the entrepreneurial part of the brain that needs to come in. What is the business? What business are you offering? So in this book, we're talking a little bit about that. And to your point, I'm talking a lot about the business part, converting your practice to business. Because that's after all, I would assume you open up a business, your own firm, to have a business. Otherwise, you will just work somewhere if that's what you want, which is perfectly fine. By the way, there's no one that says that running a business is better than working somewhere. But if that's what you want, if that's what you're looking for to have a business, then you have to change your mindset and put the investor hat on. That's when it comes in. You put the investor hat on. At the same time, you must have your professional hat on because we are professionals. You can't take that away from us. You have to keep providing excellent service, helping your clients. But that's not enough. Unfortunately, to have a successful business, that's not enough. You must put your investor hat on. And an example that I typically draw with this in mind, with the investor hat on, is, for example, if you wouldn't be a lawyer, you would go out and open up a restaurant, let's say, right? You buy a restaurant. That's an example. You got to invest a lot of money into that restaurant. Whether you start it from scratch or buy an existing business, you need to invest a lot of money into this restaurant. If it's a new business, you need to buy equipment. You need to pay rent for several months until the business picks up. If it's an existing business, then obviously you got to purchase that business from the seller. So it's an investment either way. But professionals such as lawyers and CPAs as well, when we open up our firm, we don't see our firm as a business. Therefore, we have a hard time investing, putting some money up front, including myself. I do not blame. This is exactly the mistake I did, which I wish I didn't back then, but I didn't know any better. And I'd done millions of mistakes throughout this 15, 20 years, but we live and learn. And that's when, if you would see this as a business from day one and invest some capital into your business and structure it in a way where it's a lot more scalable. Because alone, it's just so much you can do. What can I do? I can't do marketing, offering services, go out and do networking, do my accounting, answer the phone calls, be the IT person in the firm. Like it's just your time is just limited. And I wish we could do all of it and not have to invest the money. But that's what I mean with the investor hat on, Claudio. You unfortunately have to invest some money into the business if you want to build that business. Again, some lawyers just open up, say, you know what, I'm just tired working somewhere. I just want to be me, myself, just run my practice, very small ownership, very small practice. I don't need to have a hire people. I don't need to have millions of clients or grow a firm. Those cases is perfectly fine. You can just gradually grow your firm and you don't really necessarily need to put the investor hat on. But you still need to put the business owner hat on. The investor hat and the business owner hat is a different thing. Investor puts money into an operation and expects return in return from that investment. The business owner is the operator. The professional is the professional who provides services. So there are three kind of hats that we need to consider: the professional one, the business owner one, and the investor one. Which a lot of time people think the business owner and investor is the same. In my opinion, it's not. As an investor, you could as well put $100 into Apple stock and expect return in dividends and expect the value of the Apple stock to go up. As a business owner, you're actually in the business and doing the work involved, managing and growing the firm. And as a professional, are actually providing the services yourself. Does that make sense, Claudio?
And I'm curious now that you tell me these different hats and how, you know, people have different goals, right? But you could say it's a fair assumption to say that business want to have profit. So I also wanted to know, in your experience and from all of that, are there a few things specifically that you've seen that separate firms that then have that growth sustainably from those that might struggle year after year? I know you said something very interesting about putting in the investment up front and all of that, but are there some other things that you noticed, just some maybe trends in the sense of how do you grow a firm?
Absolutely. It comes back to being a professional again, as professionals, including me. I'm talking about myself as well here when I'm talking about professionals because I'm a CPA. I was trained to be CPA, but I've been working on myself to kind of train my brain to be a business owner also. But it's hard. It's very easy to go back and slip back to become a professional because that's where we feel comfortable as a professional. Biggest one of the biggest thing that I see is the lack of delegation, trust issue. We think we can do something better than anybody else. Nobody else can do it the way I do it. Yeah, that's very true. Possibly nobody can do it the way I do it, but who am I to say that this is the best way of doing it? What if I bring in Claudio as my, let's say in this example, as a young CPA, graduated, has few years experience. I've been in the business for 20 plus years. I've been doing same things over and over. Just because I'm doing it same thing over and over doesn't mean that's the right way of doing. Bringing Claudio with his new way of thinking, new mentality. Yes, I might not like that we're changing ways of doing it, but I think that's very, very crucial to be able to evolve your practice, to bring in new mindset, new kind of thinking to change the way you're doing, especially now with AI. Like I'm pretty positive. I know for a fact that the younger generation are a lot more uh, AI driven than I am, even though I'm forcing myself to learn it. But someone that's 20 years younger than me right now would be able to implement AI a lot better than myself. So why not use that talent? Why not bring them in and let them develop the new way of doing business? So delegation, 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 that's kind of goes hand in hand. It's kind of mindset and delegation. And Claudio come into my office or my practice, say, Claudio, this is your department. I want you to build new processes around implementing AI, just as an example. How can we utilize AI to make our practice more efficient? That's a problem that I see. Firms that are thriving are not scared of delegating. And in order to not be scared of delegating, you cannot be scared of making mistakes. Yeah, maybe Claudio makes some mistakes around, that's part of it. I've made millions of mistakes. Why shouldn't Claudio make mistakes? We should encourage mistakes actually. And by the way, talking about that, that's not only in the business world. I think we should encourage mistakes in life. I'm talking to my kids all the time, and I want them to make mistakes. Sometimes I'm kind of setting them up to make mistakes because they learn. That's what we learn. And yeah, it sounds rude and cruel to set up your kids to make mistakes, but I think that's how we learn. I think, and that will train their brain that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be creative, to try new things. 1 out of 10 will stick, and that will be a fantastic idea. And a lot of people are telling me, by the way, about making mistakes. A lot of people, when I let go of all my non-law firm clients because it was a r- pretty successful firm. I had about 20 employees working at that firm, and I let that go and have someone else run it. And a lot of people tell me like, "You're crazy, Emil. Man. Why would you do that? You've been building it for over 15 years, almost 18 years, and now all of a sudden you let it go." It's because I can see trying new things, be brave. Will I make mistakes? Yes, absolutely. This past year I made even more mistakes, but different mistakes from when I did with my other firm. If I'm gonna make the same mistakes I did with the other firm, then it's me to blame. But if it's new mistakes, which will take me to even higher levels, I'll make the mistakes. I take that. So to answer your question, I'm going off track here once in a while, Claudia. You gotta bring me back. Answer your question. The ones that are delegating with systems in place. We need to have systems in place. It's very important to delegate. I can't just hire Claudio and tell him, Claudio, get it done. You can't do that. Claudio just have a couple of years of experience. For example, I'm just bringing you as an example, Claudio, but and throw him out there. If we don't have systems in place, Claudio will get frustrated. Very likely that he will leave within very quickly the firm because Emil, as the owner, is not supporting him. Doesn't have systems in place. System does not mean control. You don't have to be control freak to have systems in place. You put systems in place to be able to measure and monitor what's happening and allow some room for mistakes. So that's a key. The firms that are thriving, my clients that I see, the biggest ones are just in the background with a bird eyes view looking at the firm. and making sure everything is working. And when it's not, they're stepping in and trying to solve those problems.
Amazing. That makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate you sharing that. I also really liked what you said about raising children and teaching them how to make mistakes. I think that's always a nice caveat that we get here in the podcast, listening parenting tips and all kinds of things. And I think that that really makes our conversations even more rich. But moving forward here, I wanted to ask you about something very specific. So I'm just personally completing my law degree here in Canada. And, a lot of the listeners in this podcast are either law students or junior lawyers just getting into the workforce. And all of them listening today are usually preparing to be in a future practice that could mean even, preparing on the financial side, being either a law firm owner or some kind of manager. So I wanted to know if you have a piece of advice that you'd give to these law students who are starting today.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. First of all, you got to think of what is it that you want. Just because it looks sexy to have a big firm, just because it looks cool, people will talk about you. Emil or Claudia has a huge firm. That doesn't mean crap. You got to see what is right for you based on your situation. And what's right for you today might not be right for you 10 years from now. That was me. When I first started 2009, my idea was, you know what, I just want to build a firm, help law firms, clients in general at that time, and I make a living. But thereafter, you're evolving. You are growing up. You're evolving. Your ideas are evolving, or it might not. But you got to see what's right for you, and do not be scared of making mistakes. As we just talked about, you will be making mistakes. That's part of it. You have to do that, and do not be scared to change your route down the line. That happened to me. I changed my route because you evolved, you learn new things through your mistakes, and you change your route towards something bigger and better. While you know that, once you know what is it that you want, you got to again see this. If you want to build a firm, as you mentioned, most of the listeners are eventually gonna open up their own practice or become partners. You got to see it as a business and do not only think through your professional hat. That's my biggest advice, because I see that a bunch of clients that do not do that. Doesn't matter how much we talk to them, they're still a professional without the business owners or investors hat on, and they get stuck. Those are getting stuck. But that said, you cannot lose your professional hat, because that's who you are. That's what brought you where you are. You still have to be professional. You still have to treat your clients with a professional mind, but train the other part also, if that helps.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much once again for taking the time to be in the podcast today, Emil. I think those are some really valuable lessons. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Claudio, for having me. This was amazing. Thank you.